I stood in the pouring rain outside my uncle's mansion, soaked to the bone, staring at the man who destroyed my life through the glowing window. My finger hovered over the doorbell. One push, and the world as he knew it would explode. "Dad," I whispered into the dark, "if you're watching, this is for you." My name is Daniel Hart. I'm 31 now, but this story really begins when I was 19. Back then, I was just a quiet kid working graveyard shifts at a warehouse, loading trucks so I could afford community college. My dad, Richard Voss, ran Voss Shipping, a rock-solid family company. We weren't billionaires, but we were happy. Sunday dinners, loud laughter, a life that felt safe. Then there was Uncle Victor. He was the golden one, charming, loud, always the center of the room. He'd slap my back and say, "Danny boy, one day we'll run this empire together." I believed him, because that's what you do with family, right? It happened on Christmas Eve. The mansion smelled of pine and roasted chestnuts. Dad had just announced he was stepping down and handing the reins to Victor. I remember Dad hugging me tight that night, whispering, "I'm so proud of you, son. Paris next summer, just us." At 2 a.m., the doorbell shattered our lives. 2 officers stood on the porch. My father was dead, a gun in his hand, a suicide note on his desk. I didn't cry at first. I was too frozen to breathe. My mother collapsed in the hallway, her screams echoing off the high ceilings. Victor was there in minutes, holding her, tears streaming down his face. "We'll get through this," he sobbed. "Blood before everything." He was a liar. Within 6 months, Victor had seized total control. Debts we never knew existed suddenly appeared. My mother, broken by grief, turned to the bottle. A year to the day after my father died, she swallowed a handful of pills in the same study where he'd taken his life. I found her the next morning. At the funeral, Victor didn't even look me in the eye. He just patted my shoulder and said, "You're young, Danny. Go live your life. I'll handle the burden of the company." I was shipped off to a distant aunt with 2 suitcases and $1,000. The will Victor produced left me nothing. For 12 years, I lived in the shadows. I changed my last name to Hart, my mother's maiden name. I worked double shifts, studying business and forensic accounting by candlelight. I learned how to dig through digital footprints without leaving my own. Every night, I stared at the ceiling and remembered my father's last hug. I made a promise to the dark. I will take it all back. Before I tell you how I did it, I want to ask you something. If you found proof that your own flesh and blood had murdered your parents, would you go to the police immediately? Or would you wait, like I did, to make sure they lost everything first? Drop a 1 in the comments if you'd want justice, or a 2 if you'd want total revenge. The breaking point came 6 months ago. I was 31, still loading trucks by day and running private investigations by night. I received an anonymous email from an old server admin at Voss Shipping. It contained a single grainy video file. My hands shook so hard I nearly dropped my laptop. It was security footage from my father's study, the night of the Christmas party, where the video showed Victor walking in after the guests had left. My father was asleep in his chair, tipped over from too much champagne. The video showed Victor calmly pressing a gun into my father's limp hand. It showed him typing the suicide note with gloved hands. He was professional. He was cold. He was a monster. I threw up in the sink. Then I sat on the bathroom floor and cried like that 19-year-old boy all over again. But then, the sadness turned into a cold, hard diamond of rage. I spent months building my case. I hired a hacker to recover deleted emails between Victor and a crooked accountant. I found the paper trail of money siphoned to offshore accounts. I even found a medical log suggesting my mother's suicide pills had been crushed into her evening wine. I became a ghost in Victor's world. I watched him on the news, living his perfect life. The new wife, the private jets, the politicians shaking his hand. The night of the Voss Annual Charity Gala was the perfect stage. It was held in the same ballroom where my father had made his final announcement. I wore a rented tuxedo and a fake press pass. I stood in the back as Victor took the stage, smiling that shark-like smile. "Tonight we honor my late brother Richard," Victor boomed, "because family is everything." The lights dimmed for the tribute video, but the video I played wasn't a montage of family photos. It was the footage from the study. The entire room watched in horrific silence as Victor pressed the gun into my father's hand. Gasps erupted. Hundreds of phones came out. Victor's face drained of color until he looked like a corpse. "This is fake," he roared, clutching the podium. "Someone is trying to destroy me." I stepped out from the shadows and into the spotlight. My voice was steady, though my heart was hammering against my ribs. "It's not fake, Uncle. I have the originals. I have the bank records. I have the truth." Security moved toward me, but the guests, members of the elite, the press, the board, were already filming. Victor's own wife backed away from him like he was a snake. I held up a USB drive. "This goes to the FBI in 10 minutes, Victor, unless you want to tell everyone here why you did it." He lunged at me, screaming like an animal. The cameras caught every second of his meltdown. The mask didn't just slip, it shattered. The fallout was a tidal wave. Victor was arrested that night. The evidence I provided was ironclad, and the subsequent investigation uncovered a decade of fraud. His wife left him, his assets were frozen, and the friends who drank his scotch turned their backs the second the handcuffs clicked. I sat in the courtroom every single day of the trial. When the judge read the verdict, murder in the first degree, Victor looked at me. The hatred in his eyes was the only thing he had left. I visited him in prison once. He picked up the phone behind the glass, his voice a raspy whisper. "You think this makes you better than me, Danny?" I looked at the broken man who had stolen my youth and my parents. I realized I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel powerful. I just felt finished. "No," I said. "It just makes me free." I eventually got the company back through the courts. I sold most of it off, keeping just enough to start a foundation in my parents' names that helps families destroyed by corporate white-collar crime. Some nights I still light 2 candles, one for Dad, one for Mom. I talk to them. I tell them I'm okay now. Revenge didn't heal me, the truth did. The anger kept me alive, but letting it go finally let me live. If you're carrying a heavy secret or a betrayal that's eating you alive, I hope you find your version of peace, not by becoming like those who hurt you, but by refusing to let their darkness define your light. Truth matters. Family should too, but sometimes you have to choose yourself. Thanks for listening.